The baby is less than a week old. Let that land for a second. Less than a week. Still that new baby smell. Still doing that little curled up frog pose newborns do. Still small enough that his whole head fits in one hand. And he's in a car seat at a seafood spot in Santa Clarita, while a sheriff on a loudspeaker is telling his daddy to walk backwards with his hands up. That's the frame. That's where we're starting. Not with a headline. Not with a breaking news chime. With a fact, a 4-day-old infant, a 4-year-old big brother named Superior, a plate of king crab that never got touched, and a SWAT call built out of a lie about a man beating his fiancée and firing off 5 rounds. None of that happened. None of it. But the cops still came. The stream still rolled. And Blueface, because he is Blueface, looked into the camera and said, and I'm quoting, "This is great for content. Yeah, we gotta talk about this one. Before I go 1 inch deeper, hit that subscribe, tap the bell, drop a like if you want the whole breakdown, not the 45-second TikTok version. Famed cryptics don't do headlines. We do autopsies. Let's ride." Here's the setup in plain English. Blueface, government name Jonathan Jamal Porter, is out with his fiancée Nevaeh Akira, their 4-year-old son Superior, and their newborn. They're at King and Crabs on Bouquet Canyon in Santa Clarita Valley, a restaurant Blue reportedly has a stake in. Nevaeh just gave birth days ago. She's tired. She's warm. She's on prescribed ibuprofen and nothing else, and the chat won't shut up about it. Then the stream flips. A sheriff's cruiser rolls up. Loudspeaker. "Jonathan Porter, come out with your hands up." The 911 report claims Blue punched Nevaeh in the face, that she's got a bleeding nose and a swollen eye, and that shots were fired 5 times ago. All of it a lie. All of it, live on camera. And their kids are inside. That's the incident. Now let's open the vault. Now, before we crack that vault open, let me set the table for anybody who found this video off the algorithm and doesn't have the full Blueface file in their head. Because context is everything here. And the context is loaded. Jonathan Jamal Porter. Blueface. If you know him from one thing, it's Thoshiana. The 2018 record that took him from a Carson, California kid who played football to a Billboard charting name practically overnight. But if you've been watching the last few years, you know the music almost became the sidebar. The main event became the chaos economy around him, the reality show energy, the very public relationships, the legal run-ins that have been covered extensively by outlets like TMZ and the Los Angeles Times over the years, and most recently, the pivot to live streaming, where the man's entire life, arguments, meals, kids, all of it became a 24/7 broadcast. And that pivot matters. It matters more than anything else in this story. Because a recording artist can control what the public sees. A live streamer can't. When you go live from your actual location, in real time, with no delay button, no production buffer, you are not just sharing your life. You are broadcasting your coordinates. Hold that thought, because it's the key that unlocks this whole thing. Nevaeh Akira, the fiancée, the woman at the center of this footage. She's the newest chapter in Blue's very public personal life. And by the time of this stream, she's days removed from giving birth to their son. Days. Medically speaking, she's in the window doctors call the immediate postpartum period. The stretch where, according to every maternal health guideline you've ever read, a woman is supposed to be resting, healing, and bonding with her newborn. Instead, she's at a restaurant on camera, reading a live chat that's accusing her of being on drugs. Remember that detail. It's going to matter more than you think. And the location, King and Crabs, Bouquet Canyon Road, Santa Clarita Valley. Not a random pick. Blue mentions on the stream itself that he has a stake in the spot, which explains the plug he drops later. And yes, he drops an actual advertisement in the middle of his own SWAT response. And we'll get to that, because it's one of the most surreal moments I've ever seen captured on a live broadcast. One more piece of frame before the vault. This is not the first time police have been weaponized against a streamer mid-broadcast. Not even close. There's a whole history here. A dark, documented, years-long history. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly where this incident sits inside that history. Because when you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And the pattern is the scariest part of all. Alright, vault time. I want to start with the quotes. because the quotes tell you everything about who these two are under pressure. Two people, same event, completely different nervous systems. Blueface, when the sheriff's loudspeaker starts calling his name. Calm, almost bored. He literally says, and this is on the stream. Get the camera. Expletive. This expletive slow. Watching a yo or something. He's directing the camera operator. Mid-SWAT. Like a producer. Fame cryptics confirmed via the live stream capture. Then he goes. They're being swatted, chat. This is great for content. I love when they do this. Police do half the work, huh? That's not shock. That's not fear. That's a man who has been through this so many times the muscle memory is marketing. He treats a SWAT call like a sponsored segment. Now flip the camera. Nevaeh, in the same 30 seconds, holding a newborn, says, I do not love this at all. This is so traumatizing for kids. One sentence. That's the whole difference between the two of them right there. He's calculating engagement. She's calculating trauma. Later, once she's in the back of patrol car, with a newborn, she says, and this stopped me cold. I'm putting my 4-day-old baby in here. 4 days old, in the back of a cop car, because of a hoax. And then Blueface, walking out of the whole thing with a badge escort, says to the officer, this is a real quote. I have no idea what they gain from it, but I gain a lot of views and money from it, so they can come. If you guys want to come and do this every day, just give me a call before you come. Just sit with that. He's inviting the sheriff to schedule SWATs. He hands the officer his new number. Live. On stream. That's the quote bank. Let's timeline it. But wait, before we leave the quote bank, I need you to notice something about the structure of what Blue says, because it's hiding in plain sight. I gain a lot of views and money from it. Listen to the grammar. Not I gained. Not I might gain. Present tense. Continuous. He is describing an established system, a machine he's watched run before, multiple times, with predictable outputs. That's not a man theorizing about a one-off. That's a man reading you the results of an experiment he's already run. The question that should be sitting in the back of your head right now is, how many times has this machine run? Keep that question warm. We're coming back to it. And the answer is the part of this story almost nobody covered. And then there's the number exchange. Blue casually handing the deputy his new phone number, live, on stream, with tens of thousands of people potentially watching. Think about what just happened there. A man whose safety depends on controlling his personal information is so deep into the normalization of this routine that he's reading digits into a hot microphone. Either he's confident that number is a front line, a filter, a decoy, or the boundary between private citizen and broadcast entity in his brain has fully dissolved. I'm not sure which answer is more unsettling. Now look at Nevaeh's quotes again, all of them stacked together. I do not love this at all. This is so traumatizing for kids. I'm putting my 4-day-old baby in here. Notice what every single one of her sentences has that is don't. Other people. Her quotes orbit the kids. His quotes orbit the metrics. Same car, same sirens, same night. Two people narrating two completely different events. And if you think that gap between them is just a personality difference, just wait until you see how it plays out in the timeline. Because there's a moment in the patrol car that reframes everything. Let me walk you through this thing minute by minute, because context matters here. Pre-incident. They arrive at the restaurant. Superior can't put his shoes on. Nevaeh is teasing him. Blue's ordering. King crab. Half-pound of shrimp deveined spicy. Snow crab for the little man. Corn, eggs, raw oysters. Normal family dinner energy. Sub goals rolling in. Please drug test Nevaeh sub. Capri looks with 5 gifted. ATL finest with a shout out. Chat is being chat. The pre-SWAT static. Nevaeh starts reading comments. This is the part everybody skips. She's already tired. She goes, I can't breastfeed in peace. I can't do anything in peace. And then, quote, life is being sucked out of me right now. Read that back. This is a woman days postpartum saying life is being sucked out of her, on camera, before the cops even show up. That's the pre-existing weather system this SWAT call landed inside of. The trigger. Shout out to Lasher for the gift sub. Then Blue says it. We being swatted. Oh Lord. Number 2. meaning this is the second time in the same session or the second recent one. Either way, he's counting them like tour dates. The stop. Loudspeaker. Jonathan Porter, come out with your hands up. Walk back with your hands up. We'll figure this out in a second. Blue steps out. Hands up. Walks backward. Drops to his knees. Arrest me. Arrest me. He knows the script. The evacuation. One at a time. Every patron in the restaurant. Hands up. Walk to the left. Get cleared. Blue clocks it immediately. You know what would y'all do if it was 100 people in there? Call 100 people one at a time. He's critiquing the tactics. Mid-SWAT. Because he's done this before. The car. Nevaeh gets walked to a cruiser. With the newborn. She sits there, windows up, AC struggling, asking for her 4-year-old. Can I bring my kid? He's out there. My son is in there. He's 4. That is the moment of the whole video. Everything else is content. That right there is a mother. The report reveal. Cops let her read the 911 write-up on a laptop. It says, Blueface Jonathan Porter punched his fiancée in the face. Closed eye. Bleeding nose. Face. Black clothing. Gold chain. Shot 5 times ago. Every single word false. Nevaeh's face isn't touched. Nobody's been shot. There is no domestic. It's a fabrication designed to trigger the maximum police response. And it worked. The exit. Cops clear the scene. Blue gets his phone back. Restaurant comps his bill. It's free. Free food. Nevaeh, still shaking off the cortisol, sits down and eats. Then says the line that names the whole video. Swatted is like a gift and a curse. That's the timeline. That's what actually happened. Now let me put a forensic lens on it. Hold on. Don't move to the forensic section yet. There are 3 things buried inside that timeline that I refuse to let slide past at walking speed, because each one of them is a story by itself. Let's sit in the pre-incident scene, because it's the most important scene in the video and every clip account on the internet cut it out. Watch what the order tells you. King crab. Half pound of shrimp, deveined, spicy. Snow crab for the little man. Corn. Eggs. Raw oysters. That's not a random menu read. That's a portrait. That's a family that's done this dinner before. A 4-year-old with a standing order. A father building the table. A mother teasing her son about his shoes. It is aggressively, almost painfully ordinary. And I need you to hold that ordinariness in your hand like a photograph. Because in about 90 seconds of stream time, that exact table is going to be cleared at gunpoint. 1 patron at a time. Hands up, walk left. The distance between those 2 scenes, shoes and snow crab on one side, tactical evacuation on the other, is the distance this family lives on. Every day. That's the actual subject of this video. The sub-name. Please drug test Nevaeh. I need to stop on this because it's easy to laugh past it as troll humor. And it's not funny when you run the math. Somebody paid money, real money, a subscription, to put the phrase drug test Nevaeh on screen, days after this woman gave birth, as a joke that recurs. And it landed in a chat that was already running the same accusation for free. So when Nevaeh later says, I can't do anything in peace, understand, she is not being dramatic. She is describing a documented, monetized harassment pattern happening inside her own partner stream, on a platform taking a cut of the subs. Keep that in your pocket. When we get to the platform section later, that detail turns into a loaded question. Number 2. 2 words. Blue says them like a man calling out his place in line at a deli. We being swatted. Oh Lord. Number 2. I've played that clip back more times than I want to admit, and the part that gets me isn't the counting. It's the tone. There's no spike in it. No register change. If you played the audio for somebody with no context and asked them to guess what number 2 referred to, they'd guess a parking spot, a table number. That's how flat it is. And flatness like that isn't bravery, and it isn't coolness. Flatness like that is repetition. You don't develop a flat effect for armed police responses on the first try. You develop it on the 5th, the 8th, the 10th. Which raises the question that drives the whole rest of this breakdown. What does the full count actually look like? Because if the public record is any indication, and we'll walk it, this family's file with law enforcement is thicker than any of the headlines let on. And one more layer on the patrol car scene, because it deserves its own beat. Windows up. AC struggling, newborn in arms, 4-year-old somewhere on the other side of a police line. And Nevaeh, days postpartum, hormonal, exhausted, freshly accused online of being on drugs while she was literally eating, has to sit there and wait for permission to have her son back. Every parent watching this just felt that in their stomach. You don't recover from that scene by the time dessert would have come. You carry it. And from the reporting around postpartum mental health that organizations like Postpartum Support International have published for years, acute stress events in the immediate postpartum window aren't just unpleasant. They're clinically significant. That's not me diagnosing anybody. That's me telling you the stakes were medical, not just emotional. Now, forensic lens. For real this time. All right, investigator hat on. Because there's things in this footage that don't add up. And I want us to look at them together. The specificity of the fake call. Whoever swatted them didn't say there's a fight. They said Jonathan Porter, government name, punched his fiancée, described her injuries, described his outfit, black clothing, gold chain, and claimed shots fired 5 times ago. That's not a random troll. That's someone watching the stream in real time, using what they see on camera to build a police report cops can't ignore, which means the caller was in the chat. Or working off the chat. Either way, that stream was the weapon. The burner phone problem. The deputy tells Blue straight up. It's just hard to track these people down. They call off like burner phones. You can't track anyone down. Read that again. Law enforcement is publicly admitting, on this man's live stream, that the current swatting playbook is essentially untraceable. That's not a Blueface problem. That's a national problem showing up at one seafood spot. The number rotation. Blue tells the officer, you guys called me last time, but I got a new number. Meaning the sheriff's department already has him in a system as a repeat SWAT target. He's rotating numbers. Cops are rotating dispatch protocols. This is a routine between them at this point. The number 2 comment. We being swatted. Number 2. If that's the second SWAT in a short window, we're not looking at an incident. We're looking at a campaign. Somebody, or a coordinated somebody, is trying to make Blueface public life a series of hands-up walks. The monetization loop. And this is the uncomfortable one. Blue says to the deputy's face, you guys don't know how much money you just made me with this. He's not wrong. SWAT clips go viral. Viral clips print ad revenue, which means every hoax caller, every burner phone, every fake report is also, functionally, paying him. That is a feedback loop. The punishment becomes the paycheck. And once that loop exists, the punishment stops working, which is exactly why the calls keep coming. That's the forensic layer. Now let's talk about how the internet split on it. Wait, we're not done in the lab. 5 things wasn't enough. There's 5 more. And number 6 is the one that kept me up. The outfit match. Go back to the fake report. Black clothing. Gold chain. Now go back to the stream. That's what he's wearing. That's not a lucky guess, and it's not a generic description. The caller didn't say, a man in the restaurant. They described tonight's fit, which confirms thing 1 from a second angle. This person had eyes on the broadcast during the broadcast, according to cybersecurity researchers who've studied swatting communities. And this has been documented in reporting by outlets like Wired and The Verge over the years. Real-time visual confirmation is a known escalation marker. It separates the bored troll from the engaged predator. The caller wasn't flipping a coin. They were watching the show. They were directing. Let that crawl up your spine for a second. The response calculus. Think about what the fake report was engineered to do. It didn't claim a noise complaint. It didn't claim a fight. It stacked the 3 triggers that, according to law enforcement training materials that have been publicly discussed for years, force the maximum response. Active domestic violence in progress, visible injuries on a named victim, and shots fired. That's not improvisation. That's menu knowledge. Whoever made that call knew exactly which words unlock a tactical response, which means this was either someone who has done this before, or someone who learned from people who have. And that second possibility is worse, because it implies playbooks. Shared ones. The evacuation inefficiency Blue flagged. Remember his line. What would y'all do if it was 100 people in there? Strip the swagger off it, and it's a legitimate tactical question. One at a time, clearing works for a Tuesday dinner crowd. It does not scale. If the caller's goal, and according to researchers who study these communities, this is often the goal, is maximum disruption and maximum spectacle, then a crowded venue is the dream scenario. Blue, mid-incident, identified the exact scaling vulnerability that makes restaurants, concerts, and public appearances the highest-risk streaming environments. He wasn't just being funny. He was accidentally doing a threat assessment out loud. The asymmetry of consequences. Total it up. The caller risked, based on the deputy's own on-stream admission, functionally nothing. Burner phone, no trace. Case likely cold before the crab legs went cold. The restaurant. A full dinner service interrupted. Patrons evacuated. Staff rattled. Food comped. The deputies. Hours of tactical response time spent on a ghost. The county. Real money. And swatting responses have been estimated in public reporting over the years to cost departments thousands to tens of thousands of dollars per incident depending on scale. The family. A trauma imprint on a 4-year-old and a cop car ride in a newborn's first week of life. One phone call did all that. That's not a prank economy. That's an artillery economy. One cheap shell. Massive blast radius. The quietest detail in the whole stream. The deputies asked Superior for a high five on the way out. Sweet gesture, genuinely. But think about why it was necessary. It was necessary because a 4-year-old had just watched armed strangers take command of his family, and the deputies knew it. And the best tool available to them, trained professionals, on scene, doing their best, was a high five. When the full remediation toolkit for a child after a hoax tactical response is one open palm, the system has told on itself. There's no protocol after the protocol. Nobody comes back. The cruisers leave, the stream ends, and the family is left holding a bill that isn't financial. That's the full forensic picture. 10 items deep. And here's the thing that should genuinely bother you. Every single one of those 10 points was visible in a single evening's footage. One dinner. Imagine what a full year of this family's life looks like under the same lens. Now the internet's reaction. Because it did not react like one internet. 2 camps formed almost instantly. He's laughing, they're fine. These are the people who watched Blue joke with deputies. Plug the restaurant on a loudspeaker moment. Make sure you guys eat at the King of Crabs, Bouquet Canyon, Santa Clarita Valley, 5-star ratings. Man really didn't add during his own SWAT. And said, well, if the family's cool, we're cool. That camp treats it like content. The 4-year-old, though. These are the people who zoomed in on Superior. For years old. Watching Daddy walk backwards with his hands over his head. Getting carried out of a restaurant by strangers with badges. That camp is saying, I don't care what your engagement metrics look like. That kid just filed a memory that's going to surface for the rest of his life. And they're not wrong. Nevaeh straddles both. She says on stream, they say he's cute and he looks like you. It's easy content. At least nice. It's annoying going through the process. That is a woman who has learned to metabolize trauma into a shrug, because if she doesn't, she can't function. That's a survival edit. That's not health. And the comment section? A whole third camp, the drug testers. Half the chat pre-SWAT was accusing Nevaeh, days postpartum, of being high. She had to name-check her own prescription, ibuprofen, prescribed after giving birth, on her own live stream to defend herself. That is the ambient hostility this family is living inside of. Before you even add cops to the equation. That's the split. Now let's get to the take. But before the take, I owe you the history lesson, because the split makes no sense without it. Why does half the internet treat a SWAT response like a variety show? Because for a decade, the internet has been trained to swatting, the practice of filing false emergency reports to dispatch armed police to a target's location, has been a documented phenomenon in gaming and streaming culture since at least the early 2010s, and the record here is not rumor, it's court history. The case that changed the national conversation. In December 2017, a Wichita, Kansas man named Andrew Finch was fatally shot by police responding to a false report, a SWAT, that stemmed from a dispute over a video game wager reportedly worth about $1.50. The caller, Tyler Barris, was sentenced in 2019 to 20 years in federal prison, according to the Department of Justice and extensive reporting at the time. 20 years. A man dead. Over a fake phone call made from another state. That is the ceiling of what this prank does. And the streamer-specific record, since then, is a parade you can line up by name. All widely reported. Aiden Ross, swatted multiple times on stream. Kai Cenat, swatted during broadcasts that drew enormous viewership. DDG, dealing with hoax calls at his home. I Show Speed, XQC. The list goes on. And every one of those incidents was covered by mainstream and streaming media outlets as it happened. The FBI's concern got serious enough that, per reporting in 2023, the Bureau stood up a national database specifically to track swatting incidents because local departments were drowning in isolated cases with no connective tissue. Read that again. The problem got big enough to need a federal spreadsheet. California, where this all went down, has its own chapter. Under California Penal Code Section 148.3, falsely reporting an emergency is a crime that can rise to a felony. And if a false report results in death or serious bodily injury, state law allows the caller to be held responsible for that outcome, including murder charges in the most extreme readings that prosecutors have publicly discussed. The legal architecture exists. The enforcement almost never catches up because, say it with me, burner phones. The exact phrase the deputy used on Bluestream. So now the media split makes sense, doesn't it? Camp 1 laughs because a decade of SWAT clips with no visible blood taught them SWATs are slapstick. Camp 2 panics because they know the Andrew Finch story. And they know every one of these calls is a loaded gun that just hasn't gone off yet. Same footage. 2 different educations. The comments section isn't arguing about Blueface. It's arguing about which version of swatting history it learned. And the drug test camp, the third one, that's the most modern phenomenon of all. The audience as antagonist. Not watching the story. Participating in it. Some of those accounts accusing Nevaeh were, statistically speaking, almost certainly in the chat the night of the SWAT. And if the forensics section taught us anything, it's that somebody in that chat was doing more than typing. Somebody in that chat was dialing. Whether the trolls and the caller overlap, we don't know. But they breathe the same air. And the stream is the oxygen. Remember I told you the please drug test Nevaeh sub would turn into a loaded question? Here it is. If your platform's paid subscription system is being used to harass a postpartum woman by name, and that same live chat is the hunting ground for the person calling in fake shootings, what exactly is the platform's responsibility? Sit with that. We're going to land on it in forward motion. One more thing about Nevaeh's easy content line, because it deserves the slow read. It's easy content. At least nice. It's annoying going through the process. 3 sentences, and the middle one, at least nice, is doing heroic work. She's not describing the SWAT. She's describing the comments about the baby being cute, and she's reaching for it like a handrail. That's what coping looks like in sentence form. Find a one stair that isn't broken and put your weight there. Camp 1 sees a woman being chill. Camp 2 sees a woman being crushed. They're both watching the same clip. Only one of them is reading the footnotes. Now, the take. And I've been building to this for a while. So let me say it the way it needs to be said. Here's what nobody's saying out loud. And I must say it because that's what we do here. Blueface didn't create the swatting problem. But Blueface has, whether he means to or not, built a business model that rewards it. When you look at a hoax that pulled a sheriff's tactical response onto a restaurant with a newborn inside, and your first instinct is to say, this is great for content, you're not being brave. You're not being unbothered. You're being a man who has taught his own nervous system that danger equals payday. That's a trauma response wearing a producer's hat. And I don't say that to drag him. I say it because that's genuinely what's happening. He's been swatted enough times that the fear reflex is broken. When the loudspeaker cuts on, he doesn't spike. He pivots to camera. That's not fearlessness. That's a callus. And a callus is just skin that gave up on healing because it got hit in the same spot too many times. Now Nevaeh. Nevaeh is the whole story if you're willing to look at her. Postpartum. Days out from delivery. Being publicly accused of drug use by strangers who have never met her. Sitting in a hot patrol car with a 4-day-old baby, asking, pleading, for her 4-year-old to be brought to her. And when it's all over, sitting back down to eat like this is just Tuesday. Because for her, at this point, it kind of is. That's not thriving. That's coping. And here's the part that's going to give me some comments. I actually think the deputies handled it as well as it could have been handled. They were calm. They cleared it fast. They apologized. They asked Superior for a high five. They comped. Well, the restaurant comped the meal, but you get me. They were professional. But professional still means the 4-year-old walked past armed officers, with his hands up. Professional still means the newborn's first week on Earth includes a cop car ride. Professional isn't enough when the call itself is the crime. Because that's the real story here. The perpetrator isn't in this video. The perpetrator is on a burner phone somewhere, watching the stream, watching the response, feeling powerful. And every time we frame this as a Blueface incident, instead of a swatter incident, we're letting the actual criminal stay invisible. So no, this isn't easy content. This isn't a gift and a curse. This is a curse Blueface has learned to gift wrap, because the alternative is admitting how tired he probably is underneath all that composure. And it's a curse Nevaeh is carrying on her back, in a postpartum body, while the internet debates whether she looks glossier today. Y'all, come on. We can do better than that as an audience. We really can. That's the take. Let's talk about what's next. You thought I was done with the take. I'm not done with the take. There's a sub-basement under this thing, and we're going down there. Here's the layer nobody touches because it implicates us, the audience, the channels, the whole viewing apparatus, famed cryptics included. And I'm not exempting myself. Every retelling of this story, including the one you're watching right now, completes the circuit the caller started. Think about the swatter's actual payoff. It's not money. According to the researchers and reporters who've interviewed people from these communities over the years, the payoff is the show, the response, the panic, the clips, the discourse. The caller got their show the second the loudspeaker came on. And every reaction video, every clip page, every breakdown, this one, is a rerun of that show. That's the dark engine under the great for content quote. Blue monetizes the rerun. The swatter gets high off the premiere. The platform collects on both. And the only parties who never profit are the only parties who never chose it. A 4-year-old and a 4-day-old. I want to be precise here, because this is where these videos usually go off the rails into fake deep territory. So let me keep it factual. Am I saying don't cover these stories? No. I'm saying coverage choices are moral choices. You can cover a SWAT by centering the celebrity's jokes. That's Camp One's whole diet. Or you can cover it by centering the mechanism. Who calls? How they organize? Why they're nearly never caught? What it costs the people inside the perimeter? Same footage. Radically different public value. One version entertains the audience. The other version educates the jury pool, because these cases, when they do reach court, are decided by regular people who either think swatting is a meme or understand it's attempted violence by proxy. Tyler Barris got 20 years because a Wichita jury understood the second thing. That's not a metaphor. That's the record. Second sub-basement level, the gender of the strain. And I'm going to say this plainly. Watch the footage again and track who absorbs what. Blue absorbs the spectacle. Hands up, walk back, loudspeaker, cameras. Nevaeh absorbs the logistics, the baby's temperature in the car, the 4-year-old's location, the accusations in chat, the postpartum body, doing postpartum things in a plastic backseat. He gets the cinematic version of the trauma. She gets the administrative version. And administratively absorbing a crisis. Where's my son? Is the baby too hot? Why does the report say I have a bleeding nose? Is the kind of stress that doesn't clip well, doesn't go viral, doesn't get a W in chat. But it's the version that lives in the body the longest. Anybody who's ever been the family's crisis manager knows exactly what I'm talking about. And one more. Then I promise we're going forward. The restaurant plug. King of Crabs, Bouquet Canyon, Santa Clarita Valley, 5-star ratings. Everybody laughed. I laughed. But then I sat with it, and here's where I landed. A man doing an ad read during his own SWAT response is either the most committed showman alive, or a person whose threat assessment software has been fully overwritten by his content software. And I don't think it's the first one, because the first one would be a choice, and nothing in that footage looks like choosing. It looks like reflex. It looks like the only language left. There's a version of this story, 10 years from now, where a retrospective interviewer asks Blueface about this night, and the answer isn't funny at all. I don't know that for a fact, but I've watched enough of these arcs, and I've covered enough of them on this channel, to know what a coping mechanism looks like when it's doing cardio. Okay, now let's talk about what's next. So where does this go from here? Because it's going somewhere. This isn't one of those stories that just evaporates. The legal push. Nevaeh said it on the stream, out loud, and I want us to hold her to it. Quote, I'm pressing charges on whoever called. Hope they ready. If she follows through, and if the sheriff's department can crack the burner routing, which, based on the deputy's own words, is a huge if, this could be one of the first high-profile SWAT cases where the caller actually faces consequences. California upgraded swatting penalties in the last couple of years. There's a legal path. It's narrow, but it exists. Watch that lane. The platform response. This happened live, on a streaming platform, which means the platform has data, chat logs, IP ranges, GIF patterns, timing correlations between when specific comments dropped and when 911 got the call. If Blue's team actually wants to trace the swatter, the fastest route is not the burner phone. It's the chat. Whoever made the call was watching. Whoever was watching left a fingerprint. The question is whether the platform cooperates or hides behind moderation policy. The family recalibration. Whether Blue and Nevaeh want to hear it or not. Streaming from public restaurants with a newborn is not sustainable after this. Not because they did anything wrong, they didn't, but because the stream itself is now the target. Every time they go live from a location, they're painting a bullseye on that location for the next burner phone hoaxer. Somebody in that camp, a manager, a family member, a real friend, needs to have the conversation about location cloaking, delayed broadcasts, and just taking the newborn off camera for a season. I don't want to moralize, but that kid didn't sign a release form. The ripple. This story is going to get referenced every time another rapper gets swatted. And it will happen again. Aiden Ross, DDG, Kai Cenat, we've seen the pattern. Blueface version is going to become the reference case because it had the two elements that make a SWAT story travel. A newborn baby and a live camera. Fame Cryptics is going to be tracking every follow-up. If any of those tracks moves, legal, platform, family, ripple, we're on it. Immediately. The one nobody's watching. Superior. The 4-year-old. Kids that age don't process trauma out loud. They process it in behavior 6 months later. I hope, genuinely, not for content, that somebody in that household is paying attention to him. Because he's the one this happened to. Even if he's the one nobody's writing headlines about. Now let me add the practical layer. Because tracks aren't enough. You need the road conditions. On the legal track, temper your expectations. But don't kill your hope. Here's the honest state of play. For years of reporting on these cases, swatting prosecutions are rare not because prosecutors don't care, but because attribution is a nightmare. Burner phones route through VoIP services, VPNs, spoof numbers. The exact wall the deputy described on stream. But, and this is a real but, the cases that do get made usually get made the same way. Not through the phone, but through the bragging. The Barris case, per the DOJ's own releases, was cracked in part because the caller couldn't stop talking. These communities run on clout, and clout requires an audience, and audiences leak. If the person who called this one and tells one Discord server, one group chat, one bro you won't believe what I did, and if Nevaeh's charge pressing push meets a detective who's actually resourced, that's how cold cases get warm. It's happened before. It's on the record, on the platform track. I want to be fair and firm at the same time. Streaming platforms, all of them, not naming names because the problem is industry-wide, have spent years building moderation for speech. Slurs, spam, bans, timeouts. What they have not built, at any comparable scale, is moderation for weaponized attention. A viewer coordinating a police response isn't violating a chat rule. They're committing a crime that merely originates in chat. The tooling to catch that, flagging real-time location disclosure, correlating viewer spikes with offline emergency events, escalating to law enforcement liaisons, exists in pieces across the industry, and security researchers have been recommending versions of it in public reporting for years. What doesn't exist is the mandate. Nothing forces a platform to treat someone in my chat, just summoned a tactical unit, to my streamer's dinner table, as a platform-level emergency. Maybe this clip, a newborn, a loudspeaker, a quote about monetization, is the one that forces the conversation. I'd love to be able to tell you I'm optimistic. I'll settle for telling you I'm watching. On the family track, Let me say the quiet part gently. The fix is boring, and boring is exactly what makes it hard for a content machine to accept. Delay the stream by minutes, not zero. Strip location signals, the plugged restaurant, the visible signage, the come see us energy from live broadcasts. Pre-tape the family content and go live only from controlled spaces. Every security professional who consults for public figures, and this has been covered in industry reporting about creator safety for years, will tell you the same three things. The technology is trivial. The sacrifice is not. It costs spontaneity, and spontaneity is the product. That's the real negotiation happening in that household right now. Not safety versus danger, but safety versus the format. And the format has never lost a negotiation in that house. Yet, and on the superior track, the one that matters most and trends least, the child development research here is unambiguous and has been for decades. For the broad body of work on early childhood stress exposure, kids don't need to understand an event to be changed by it. They don't file it as the night daddy got swatted. They file it as the world can turn loud and armed without warning. The good news, and there's real good news, is that the single strongest protective factor the research points to is also the simplest. A calm, consistent adult who narrates safety afterward. That was scary, and it's over and you're safe. That's it. That's the whole intervention. Somebody in that boy's life has the chance to do the most important follow-up work in this entire story, and it won't get a single view, which is exactly why I wanted to end the analysis there. Not every important thing in this saga is content. Most of it isn't. That's the map. 5 tracks, 1 family, 1 invisible caller, and an audience, that's you, that now knows more about this night than 99% of the people who clipped it. Use that well. All right, deep breath. That's the breakdown. If this cracked something open for you, if you saw the story different by the end than you did at the start, do me one favor. Hit like, hit subscribe, ring the bell so you catch the follow-up, because there will be a follow-up. Drop your take in the comments. Blueface handling it right or wrong? Nevaeh pressing charges. Will it stick? I'm reading every one. Next up on Fame Cryptics, we're going into the swatter economy itself. Who these callers really are, how they organize, and why the industry can't stop them. That drops soon. Don't miss it. Y'all take care of your people. We out. Fame Cryptics.